Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.
In the 90s, we were just teeny tykes. We liked our movies and our bikes. We wanted to be DJs, but we were just teeny gals. So we went off to college and we remained best pals. 20 years later, we're still watching flicks and we're bringing you the feedback bit by bit. Sweetie and Sweetie are here to say it's the Large Marge Santa's podcast. Hey.
Hey guys, welcome to the Large Marge Tennis Podcast, your favorite podcast where two sweetie sisters talk about movies that shaped their childhood. I'm Sweetie with an IE.
And I'm Sweetie with a Y.
Oh,
Hey.
We're back.
2 months later.
2 months later. We were on a little 2-month hiatus. I know you missed us. Those couple people that still listen to us. And I had a baby.
Woo.
Yeah.
Baby
we're
time.
like almost exact. So we released, I was just writing Sweetie on my due date in February, our last episode, The Abyss. And then 2 days later, I had my son, Elliot, who we are referring to as Sweeti Jr. after his father, Sweeti Jimmy. And yeah, so that went just swimmingly, I will say. You know, second babies tend to just slip right out, and that's basically what he did, which was awesome. I had an amazing labor and really easy recovery, and now I'm back, baby.
We're back. We're back.
Yeah, it feels
Sweetie's
good. I mean,
stuck at home.
yeah,
with a
like
baby.
it's,
With a
I'm
cute
stuck at home
baby.
with a baby, and it's really a perfect time to be watching movies or TV shows or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what are we doing here? I mean, granted, like the first 6 weeks, Elliot was like pretty fussy baby. Okay. He cried a lot and he's just starting to not cry a lot. So this makes it like way more easier to
Go,
be doing
Elliot.
stuff. And you know,
Go,
if you know anything about
Elliot.
babies, that's like pretty normal. Like they
If you know
are
anything.
so, if you know anything about babies, they're just like so pissed off that they're out of the womb that it takes them like weeks to realize like, okay, I'm freaking stuck here. Better make the best of it. And I'm telling you, that's my son now because he is just like a little cheery camper.
Yay.
Just like
So glad.
Yeah, he just smiles. He's not laughing yet, but he's just wide-eyed and
Look
looking
at
at
them.
everything. I know. It's so great to like you know see these phases of kids and you're like, oh my god, like you were so terrible like a week ago and now you're like a darling angel baby. Like human development is just crazy. Anyway, so my pick for this coming back ep, and I decided it was time to drag out a beloved 80s sitcom known as Punky Brewster. Great trivia fact. What is Punky Brewster's real name?
Penelope.
Penelope. I know. Totally forgot about that.
I paid attention.
It was upsetting to me. There's this, in the pilot, she's like, doesn't like to use her name. She hates it. Penelope's adorable.
So cute.
What an
So
adorable
cute.
name. Now we've really come around to kind of the funky names in the 80s. The other name, well, this doesn't make sense. I won't talk about it.
Miranda?
Yes. Okay. So that's another name. Like
Miranda?
she's talking to somebody and she
Yeah.
goes by Randy. And she's like, my real name is Miranda. And Punky Brewster's like, oh my God, disgusting name. Like, what's wrong with Miranda?
She's like 7 years old. She doesn't
I
know
know, I
anything.
know.
She's just going by sound.
I know. So funny. So yeah, so Punky Brewster, this aired from 1984 to 1988. So, very much heart of the 80s sitcom and really kind of like pop culture icon of that time as well. This Punky Brewster and the funky punkiness that she brought. And I saw this show once it was in syndication because I would have been, I was born in 83. So I would have been like 5 years old, like the season it ended. So I definitely would have seen it on TV. I was watching TV certainly by then, probably the later seasons, but it was syndicated and definitely would have caught up and seen episodes a little bit later. So late 80s, early 90s. How about you, Sweetie? Do you remember seeing this on TV at all?
If I did, it had to have only been like in the periphery of like you watching it and me like sort of paying attention, but not like kind of like how if you're watching something that Sweetie Jr. is not interested in, she's like, pops in every now and again and is like, "What's that?" And then is like out. That was probably it. Like, because I do like remember some things, but maybe that was just because you talk about the refrigerator episode like literally once a month. Maybe it's because of that. I don't know. So, but I do remember it like culturally. So like Punky Brewster, obviously huge, like 80s icon, the like iconic, different colored shoes and like the handkerchief around her leg, pigtails, like classic. Love it. Yeah, and she's like so unique and cool and like spunky.
She was just like, spunky punky, like unique. I mean, how old is she supposed to be? Like,
she says she's 9 in the one where she cheats. So
okay, so like 7 or 8 probably in like the first season. Yeah. So adorable show, and really like a show like they all were, in like the 80s and 90s, a lot about like life lessons when you're a kid. So that's like what everyone is about. And it's just like a heartwarming sitcom, with a real great laugh track, I will say.
And like some good jokes and like some cheesy jokes.
Yeah,
and like
I thought
some racial stereotypes and like fat jokes, but like it was the 80s, like it was a time.
And, it was a time, and it takes place in Chicago, so there's like that like
I was
city,
wondering that. I was like, where are
city part of it? So you do have like a good mix of like races and stuff, which is kind of nice to see. Okay, so who's in this? So the star being Soleil Moon Frye, as Punky Brewster, and she like cute as a button. That freaking sprinkles of freckles on her nose. I mean, it couldn't be like more perfect. She beat out like 1,000 girls to get this role. Soleil Moon Frye, after like didn't do too much, but then I remembered that she was like the mean girl in Sabrina the Teenage Witch, right?
Yes. Which is funny because you're reading the trivia that Melissa Joan Hart was almost Punky Brewster.
Yes.
And
definitely.
I was just searching. Something I do now is when I'm like watching old shows or whatever for the first time or again, I'll be like, oh, does anyone have like a rewatch podcast that's like in the cast? Because I think that's really interesting. And so I like searched Punky Brewster. There isn't one. So I was like, darn. But Melissa Joan Hart has a podcast or something, I think, and had Soleil Moon Frye on it. And they talk all about how they were auditioning against each other for Punky Brewster and like blah, blah, blah. And then they became friends. And then she was on Sabrina. So full circle.
Yeah, full circle. But she's cute as a button. She's amazing in this, like obviously the entire show. Then you have Henry, played by George Gaines, who is like famous for the Police Academy movies. He was in Tootsie, and got his start really, or most of his acting chops, was in the theater world, which you can totally tell because like his volume of his voice and like the way he delivers lines is so the projection was crazy, and like he's like yelling all the time.
And like a sitcom is kind of like theater acting. Basically.
Oh, totally.
You're like on a set and
But he's great. I mean, oh my God, like adorable old man, curmudgeon turned sweetheart, because this little girl like warms his heart. Adorable.
He turns very quickly. I'll just.
I know.
I mean, we'll get to it.
And fun fact, he lived to be 98.
I know.
So
I looked that up because I
George
Googled,
Gaines.
like, how old was Henry during Punky Brewster? Because I was like, is he one of those people that like looks super old but like isn't? But he was actually 67 when he did this.
Yeah.
And I think he's playing someone who's supposed to be 61 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, 60.
So I was like, good for you. Good for you.
Yeah. And like, what a head of hair on that guy, right? I just kept staring at his hair. I was like, I guess he's actually like Swedish or Finnish or something. He was born in Europe.
Oh.
Yeah. Kind of cool fact. Okay. So then you have the Johnsons. So you have Susie Garrett as Mrs. Johnson, Mama Johnson, Grandma Johnson, I guess. She was on the Jeffersons previously. That was kind of like her main credit. And then I feel like there was one other one. And then you have Cherrie Johnson, also played by Cherrie Johnson, same name.
Her real life granddaughter.
Yes, so her real life granddaughter. And then the guy who created this show, that's his niece. So he like based the character off of her named her Cherrie Johnson, and her name is really Cherrie Johnson.
Good for her.
Crazy. She's also, you will have seen her in Family Matters as Laura's friend Max, if you are familiar with that show. I coincidentally just watched that show on Monday. Sweet Eye Jimmy was like working from home, and he had BET on, the BET network on, and that was like plays a lot on BET. Okay, also good show. We got to do Family Matters. It was amazing. So she's Max on that. You have TK Carter as the really fun teacher, Mike Fulton. Only credit that I saw he had was in The Thing. Yeah. Which I don't really remember, but awesome. You have Casey Ellison. These are just like the recurring characters as Alan, little towhead friend there, always in trouble, kind of a goober. Now, like basically is still in Hollywood, but only does like lighting, like the lighting side of things. So he switched to like,
nice.
like the technical side, which is kind of cool. And then Amy Foster as Margot. You'll probably also recognize her from Troop Beverly Hills. And I don't think she did much like after that or those two roles. So that was kind of... Go for it. The Cabbage Patch Doll? The Cabbage Patch Doll we had?
I was going to like text you, but I wanted to say for the podcast. But I was like, is it? And I was like, am I crazy? Or did our Cabbage Patch Doll look exactly like Margot from Punky Brewster? And did you name it Margot?
Wasn't the name Margot?
I think, but did you name her that because of Punky Brewster?
Because they came with little birth certificates, so I'm pretty sure like that was her name.
I just like I couldn't handle it. I was like, that is hilarious.
That was
but then I got
thing about
confused.
Cabbage Patch Kids because they came with names, so like you didn't have to do anything.
I know. I just figured. I always thought you changed it to that because of Punky Brewster, because you're like oddly obsessed with Punky Brewster, but like really just the refrigerator episode. So like,
well, okay. Remember my other one was named Trudy.
Oh yes, that's
which
what I was
was
gonna
like
say.
the Huxtables and the Cosby Show.
Isn't it Rudy? No, it's Trudy on the Cosby Show.
Oh no,
Who's Rudy?
I think you're right. I think it is.
Or
Rudy.
Ruby.
No, it's Rudy. I think.
Okay.
So but that's pretty close though. That my Cabbage Patch Doll name was Trudy. I was I'm not. It wasn't a black Cabbage Patch Doll, but I guess
Yeah,
it
it
just had
was.
brown
Trudy
hair.
was.
No, I don't think so.
The one you're
She
holding in the
was?
Florida video.
She was black.
Yes. Oh my God. All right. Well, everyone, don't worry because we sent in all of our old VHS tapes to one of those places that converts it, so
We'll
we
get
can
to the
play back
bottom
the
of it.
tape soon and send a video. But anyways, Cabbage Patch tangent. Margot looks like our Cabbage Patch Doll, where you pulled her hair, her ponytail, and it got longer.
And AKA became a huge rat
And then it
nest
didn't.
in like
Could
2
it go
weeks.
back in? What was
I
the
don't know.
point of that?
It was
Weird.
not a good design.
Anyways.
Anyway, so those are kind of like the main players, and obviously being the mid 80s to late 80s, you have this like slew of guest people and guest stars from like every 80s movie like you've ever seen, or future like shows, current shows and stuff. I mean, it's almost like a Law and Order. Like people are like walking on this, and they're just like, oh, that guy, that guy. Like it was a lot. We ended up watching the pilot, which ended up being a 3-part pilot, very intense. And then we watched 2 episodes from season 2, Cheaters Never Win, and as Sweetie has mentioned many times, the refrigerator episode, very famous, called Cherrie Lifesaver. So it was a nice little smattering.
We basically
of Punky
watched
Brewster.
a Titanic like movie of Punky Brewster.
I enjoyed myself, okay? Just from like the first beat of the theme song, which you might remember. Like it's I was just singing it.
I didn't remember.
Dun 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 dun.
Sounds like you're singing the Jock Jam song.
Every time I turn around, dun, 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 her spirit's lifting me right off the ground, standing there. That's the theme song.
Okay.
Like just got me in the mood. And even though these 80s sitcoms look like they've been filmed with like a home camera, like, it's like so bad in like a good way, because that's like all the technology we had. And like we said, the laugh track is like super overwhelming. But it was a really, really fun watch for me. I really enjoyed it. I meant to say, created by David Duclon guy, who also was executive produced Family Matters and Silver Spoons.
Oh,
so
okay.
did like a bunch
There's
of
the
like
connection.
80s stuff. Okay, so I guess let's talk about the episodes that we watched. It's time for the Sweetie synopsis.
Yeah, sweeties.
I mean, what quote can you do? It's a sitcom. I mean, I don't know. It's not like one.
That
quote.
Alan
It's
kid
like
had
several.
some good lines. In the,
he's hilarious.
In the
that guy.
cheating one.
He's such a hot mess.
Let's talk. So Punky Brewster is a 6 or 7-year-old orphan because her dad left her and her mom, and then her mom. They were in a car, right? Did I make that up? Like,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, car.
She drove Punky to a store, was like, stay here, I have to get something, went in the store and never came back out. Why did she leave her car? Like, I get, like, it's just a very weird story. Do we ever figure out, like, what happened there?
I
Does
want
she
to
come
say
back?
there is something she comes back, and so they're not even from Chicago. She said, like, her mom was like, let's get into the car and go on an adventure. So they, like, drove to Chicago. She drives to this shopping center or supermarket, says, I'll be right back. I'm going into the store, and just leaves her in the car.
Doesn't she want the car? Like, what was her next move? Like, does she get on a bus? Like, what?
I don't know.
You could have
Like, is
sold
she
the
a
car for
drug
money.
addict?
Like, what?
Like, I feel like she does come back. I mean, one of the episodes said like her and the teacher like start looking for their like long lost moms or something like that. And in Punky's point of view, like her mom was like this great person. She doesn't
that's
mention
why
her being like a drug addict or like, you know, anything like really bad. So yeah, it's kind of a weird story. And you know, but Punky's scrappy, so like she freaking makes it work. She's like hustling outside the grocery store. This is in the credits, like carrying people's groceries for like a quarter or something, and I guess is like buying food that way, and ends up squatting in an empty apartment in like an apartment building. She like goes up the fire escape. There's an open window. Oh, she also has an adorable puppy named Brandon.
You love that name, don't you?
Yeah. Oh my god, it's so cute.
Sweet up.
So that's like where you find her in the beginning of this episode, is like squatting in this apartment building.
But she's not there for long. She hangs out a little bit with her new pal Cherrie, who lives upstairs. And the building manager.
What even is that?
And what's the difference between that and the super? Like,
well,
I guess
and he has a job. So
I guess the manager
Henry owns his own photography studio.
Right. I mean, he's bored, you know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Needs two jobs. I don't know. He's responsible. People are like, you're the manager. I don't know. I mean, who else is in that building? It's just him and Cherrie's family. Like, I didn't see anyone else. I don't know. But so he busts in on her and like, you know, is like, hey, who are you? What are you doing here? And like finds out her like sad story and is like, whoa, this is pretty fucked up. But like, I'm going to have to bring you to child services or whatever. And like you know, Punky's like very unique and spunky and quirky and like funny, and he's just kind of, it's like the old lonely old man syndrome thing where you're like, any relationship, whether it's like a cat or like the boy next door or like this girl, orphan, whatever, like it's gonna be good for him. So like before long he turns around and is like, oh, I think I like Punky. But the 80s was like not only fat phobic, homophobic, they were also age-phobic or whatever that's called, like very ageist. And they're like, there is no way in hell we will give you a baby. You are a single sad old man. And it was like so sad. And he's like so responsible. He has 2 jobs, owns his own photography studio. Like, I was like, give me a break.
Yeah.
So they won't let him just like, you know, they won't let him be like her foster parent, and they won't let her stay with him temporarily until like she does get placed in a home. So it's like, fuck you guys. So poor Punky has to go to this like group home, which like isn't that bad compared to like the other group homes or like orphanages you see on television, especially from the 80s. She meets some other girls. There's a real rough and ready older girl named Lisa. Was her name Lisa?
Yeah.
Played by Robin Lively. And at first they kind of like clash, and Robin Lively is kind of like a bully, but then realizes Punky's like, can stand on her own 2 feet, and then she's like, okay, I like you. So they become friends. So Punky's mission now is to like run away from the home, but she like can't because it's under a heavy lock or whatever. But Punky always finds a way, so they come up with this like genius scheme, and she escapes and goes back to Henry's house. And the social worker or whatever is there. And like part of me was like, Punky, like they know where you are gonna go. Like it's not like she's on the lam. Like they'll just be like, okay, we know you're here. So anyway, finds her there, and this woman, who did you recognize, was Mona from Mad Men.
Yes. Well, it was driving me nuts the entire episode. I'm like, was that like a woman on like Law and Order?
Yeah,
like, I looked it up and I was like, I mean, she is very young in this like role she's playing. I would say she's like in her 20s.
Yeah. And she's like at first very like hesitant and like, I can't, you can't be a father. Like you've never been a dad, blah, 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 blah. So then Henry's like, you're right. Like I wouldn't be good for her. But, eventually he comes to realize that he does want Punky in his life. So he decides he's going to go to court and fight for Punky. So they go. It's very dramatic. There's like this bitch state attorney woman who sucks, and they fucking win because Punky reads this like cute letter she wrote Henry, and like actually was it after he made the sentence that she read the letter or before?
After, because the lady, like the child services lady, like contested it, like, judge, like I think you should reconsider your decision. Allowed? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was like, I mean, if Henry's supposed to be 60 years old and he's trying to raise her, I mean, he's going to need to raise her for the next 10 years. So like he's going to be 70. I mean, stuff could happen. But like, it's really hard to find people to adopt children, especially older children, right? Yeah. So like I wouldn't be like too picky on like who is taking in the kid. They obviously like really want to be with each other. They've spent this short amount of time, like whatever. So that
he'll meet some nice lady. It'll be fine.
That part seemed crazy, and I agree. Like super ageist. Like calm down.
Yeah. Right, because like, it's not. And 60's like not even old. Like, no.
But was it old in the 80s? I think 60 is the new 40. But like, then I like considered old as people like weren't living as long. So. Anyways, long story short, they do get to be together, and he like officially adopts Punky as his own. Yay. Punky finds a home. That was the title of the 3-part pilot. So then I didn't like, there's a lot of episodes in every season. I feel like there's like 20 episodes or something in like every season. So they obviously she ends up going to school. She makes friends at school, and like we said, like most of the episodes are these like life lessons about like, don't steal, like do this, like go to school, like don't cheat or whatever. And that's the next one we watch. So next one is season 2, episode 3, Cheaters Never Win. So
Cheaters never win.
She is at school. She has obviously Cherrie, her friend that she had from the first pilot who lived in the building. And then you have Alan and Margot. I mean, are they friends with Margot? I guess, but they seem, it's kind of like,
she's kind of like the, like Chrissy or like,
the friend you like make fun of and talk about behind your back, like friend.
Yeah.
And then they go to school, and their teacher being this Mr. Fulton, who's really fun. And the first start of the episode, she has all this stuff for Henry to sign. She's like, oh, you don't need to put on your glasses. It's just like stuff that doesn't matter. And it was like a permission slip to go to the post office. Cool. I forget what the other one was. And then a report card. So like she does like pretty like mediocre in most things, B here. A in gym. Go Punky. And then she gets a D in geography. Woof. So she is, feels kind of stupid. I'm not good at this. And Henry gives her a really good pep talk. Henry's like a great little parent. He says, you're just not working up to your potential. Like, I know you're smart. Like, you can do this. So then, like, next scene is her and her friends studying for this geography test, which is state capitals. We've all done it.
Our favorite.
50 state capitals. You have Margot, who's like trying to lead them all, and they, Cherry, Alan, and Punky are like, ugh, like we're never gonna be able to remember these. And Alan goes, you know what? I'm just gonna write them on my hand and my arm and the rest of my body and cheat. And Punky's like, oh, you can't do that. Like, we can't cheat, no. But how her tune changes a little bit later, right?
Yeah, she's in the weeds during the test. And so did she also write them down on herself, or did she just look at Alan's? She could see from that, like, she wasn't like that close, but she wasn't that far. I don't know.
No, she was in like the aisle next to him. So, okay, do you remember this? Okay, I remember. So the reason I picked this episode and the refrigerator one, because either ones I actually remember watching like on TV, and they really stuck with me. So this one is the cheating part that really stuck with me. So Alan has written like all the answers like on various parts of his body, and then they have this music playing like and it's very tense. But like, remember like the teacher passes out the all the papers, and he's like, okay, face down, and then like you'd have to like turn it face up and like start doing your test. That like totally brought me back to school, being like ugh. And so I remember this because I just remember the part where like Punky keeps like freaking out, but then she like goes over and she pulls up Alan's sleeve, and he has like Little Rock, Arkansas like written on his like arm. And I just like remember that so much when I was little. I just thought that was like the funniest thing. And they're trying to like make sure the teacher doesn't see, which of course he like does see, you find out. Anyway, so she does end up cheating as well because she had like just so much pressure. She wanted to prove to Henry that she was smart.
Right.
And so that backfires a bit.
Well, rookie mistake, they get all of them right, which is like rule number 1 when you're cheating. Like, you can't get a perfect score, especially when you just got a D, kids. So, so first of all, they're like handing out report cards like every day in this school. I'm like, what's happening here? We would get them like twice a year. It's like, what? But anyway, he's handing back the test, and he's like, 2 people got perfect scores. And that's Alan and Punky. And they're like, wow. And they're like, kind of like, whoops. And he's like, I'm so proud of you. You got a D last time. And you're like, okay, this guy is pretty thick, like super nice, but like dumb as rocks. And then he gives them like this advanced like homework or whatever for geography because they're so good at it. And so they end up having actually to like learn like whatever he gave them. And I forget. It's just like more. It seemed like it was like facts. It was like geography facts, state facts. Yeah. What's the state bird of Louisiana? Like stuff like that. So, then he's handing out the report cards again, and Punky and Alan get a C in geography, and they're like, "Yo, teach, what's up with this? Like, we got A on this, and then we got a D on it, or I forget what they said." I don't know. The math wasn't mathin', and they were like, what's up with this? He was like, oh, well, since you cheated on that test, you actually got an F, and then blah, blah, plus whatever is a C. I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, taught him a lesson, made sure that, had to do that extra work, so they actually did learn, and then Punky does have to fess up to Henry, and he is disappointed, but I forget what the actual, like, end scene of that one was. I feel like mine cut off or something. Yeah. Like, wait, did I even watch it?
What the heck happened? I just remember they were like, oh, they were so impressed that they like still learned, because they got those like big books.
Oh, doesn't he ask her like some fact about something and she knows it, and so he's like not mad anymore or something, and then they like hug, and it's like freeze frame.
The lesson is don't cheat, guys. I mean, sweetie, have you ever cheated?
Oh, like all the time. Like, I was like the biggest cheater. Where should we start? I copied like every project you ever did in school because I was like, well, I don't have to do the work because my older sister already did it.
Like,
I'm just starting with examples.
Okay.
And so then there's that. There is programming math answers into my graphing calculator.
Everybody did that
in high school. Like just like cheating from my friend's homework because I was just like hopeless at math, and I was like, I think it's just easier if you just like give me the answer. And so I would like sort of basically definitely cheat. And then in science class in 10th grade honors chemistry, my friend Deirdre and I, were lab partners, and the Mr. Chamberlain, our chemistry teacher's rule was like, you have to do your own work for you like you do the experiment together, but like you do the like report individually. So Deirdre and I happened to have the same like mathematical error on like one of the things we did, and so we got our tests back or reports back, and he was like, why is your answer the same as Deirdre? And then hers was like, why does yours the same as Andre's? And so then we got in trouble, and so then we had to do it again and then we got different lab partners, so it was like pretty lame. So that was probably like the only time I've ever really been like caught. But like I remember like writing answers like, okay, so we had these like binders with the clear thing on the top, you know? And so I would stick like, and you could like stick pictures in there and like doodles and like whatever. So I would stick like a piece of paper with the answers like kind of like artfully like drawn around it. And so it was just like on my desk. And they didn't have you like clear the stuff off your desk for some reason in my class anyways. And so that was like for like vocabulary, you know. And this is the thing though about every time that I've cheated. Just the act of me like writing it down on something or like into my graphing calculator meant that like I didn't really need to cheat. So like it was there, but I feel like I seldom used it, which is good, I guess, except for
you can make your own sitcom about it.
But really just like math was the main, probably the realest thing that I've cheated on. And I don't regret it because math sucks and I don't want to do it. So whatever, math. And that's my cheating stories.
That's not too bad. I mean, that's really just like
that was like a quarter of the times that I cheated.
That's like smart strategies, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just had my big one in senior year. We had to write an essay on crime and punishment. And let me tell you, did not understand that book. Very challenging. And I had gotten the Cliff Notes to help me understand it a little bit better, as did my friend, Ashley. And if you've ever read Cliff Notes, there's essay suggestions in the back of the Cliff Notes, like topics and like how to support the topic, whatever. So I basically just copied that, as did my friend Ashley. So we basically like turned in like similar papers. And so, you know, we're getting our papers back. This is AP English. And I get mine back, big fat F on it. Never gotten an F in my whole life. Real stinker. And she calls us up and is like, wow, you guys have like similar like essays, like thinking that we like copied off each other, I guess. But then we fessed up and said, oh, Cliff Notes, blah, blah, blah. So we just like redid it. You know, she rescored us, and then we averaged the two together. I think I ended up getting a C on that like one paper. Okay. But that certainly told me never to do that again. So, you know, sometimes you got to cheat to learn a real lesson, as Punky did, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
that was a sweet little episode. Really loved the teacher. I was really, like you said, Sweetie, definitely Sweetie Club inductee, but I really enjoyed that. And did you read that Jim Carrey was supposed to be auditioned for him, but he was too like adulty humory,
too wacky, and too like wacky, I think.
Which like true. Sorry, Jim, but true.
Totally. It would have stole, you know, as many Jim Carrey performances do, like distracted from too distracted. Yeah. Okay, so then the next episode we watched was season 2, episode 16, Cherrie Lifesaver. Brilliant title. Get it? Cherrie Lifesaver, the candy. But this is about saving Cherrie.
But the title would have you believe that like Cherrie was the lifesaver, though. That's what confused me, because I was I didn't understand. I was like, you're telling me that Cherrie doesn't even do it, the CPR in class, and she saves somebody's life at the end? And I forgot, because I thought that like Punky was in the fridge. I got confused. But so it doesn't really make sense, but I appreciate what they tried to do there.
It's clever. Okay, so as Sweetie said, I talk about this like at least once a week, this episode. And let me tell you, I cannot, my entire life, have never been able to pass a fridge on the street without thinking of this episode and saying, why isn't that door taken off? I like, and mostly
it's against the law.
They are. It's against the law, yeah. So mostly they are because of situations like
because of this episode.
Yes, exactly. So this one is kids are learning about CPR. So the teacher has them in class, and first, like, Alan is up with the CPR dummy, and he's making all these jokes, and the teacher's like, you go to the principal's office, like, you're not taking this seriously. And he was Cherrie's partner. So then Cherry goes back in like the group, and then Punky and Margot come, and they do an excellent job like doing the deal with the CPR dummy. So it's like the look, stop, look, and listen, whatever. Make sure they're not breathing. Breathe into the mouth. Chest compressions. Blah blah blah. Very very good to learn. We all learn
CPR.
it in
So hot in the 80s.
Yeah, so hot in the 80s, and we all learned it in health class like at one point, right? So then the kids are back at the apartment, and it is a snowy day, and they're playing hide and seek outside. And there's and then the beginning of this, Henry's refrigerator busts. Like black smoke is like coming out of it. It's making all these crazy noises. Didn't know that's what happened to fridges, but cool. And he goes and gets a new fridge. And then at this point, when the kids are playing hide and seek outside, there's a box outside where the new fridge was delivered, and then the old fridge is out there too. So they're all playing hide and seek, and like Margot and Punky hide in the refrigerator box. Cherry's like running around to go find something. She runs into Henry, and Henry's like, "Oh, I'm gonna take this like refrigerator door off, like but I'll be back," or something like that. So Cherry decides a good hiding place would be inside the fridge, so she hides in there. And Alan,
But didn't she know that he was going to come take the door off?
Yeah, I guess,
I don't
but
really get it.
yeah,
Whatever.
Anyways,
Whatever, Cherry.
so Alan, finds Punky and Margot in the box like right away, and then it starts really snowing, so they all like decide to go inside. And they can't find Cherry anywhere. So they're looking and they're looking all over the building. I'm not sure the time space, like how long like time went by, and you do hear Cherry, and this part always like haunted me, inside the refrigerator being like, help, like first like kind of casual, like, hey, like I'm in here, anybody in there? It's really dark in here, like
I'm
hello,
cold.
hello, I'm cold. And then she starts calling for her grandma, and then like starts really like panicking, and I'm like, oh my god, it just like really sits with me, man. So then
Okay, but I just have to say this one thing is that like there were like 3 places to hide on that like
They
backyard.
said Cherry wasn't a good hider. She was a bad hider, they said.
But
she always was.
if there's like a box, an old refrigerator with the door closed, and then like a trash can, like you would look in all of like the refrigerator is the first place you would like as a child playing hide and seek. The refrigerator is the first place I would fucking look. You dummies, like what? So I was shocked. I was shocked at that, but
I know.
yes.
So then they all go out to look for Cherry finally, and Alan and Henry are outside, and then they do finally think to look in the fridge. Cherry tumbles out, not breathing. So you have Henry, who doesn't know CPR, and Alan, who wasn't paying attention in CPR class and got sent to the principal, so he doesn't know what the fuck to do.
And Henry's like yelling at Alan, like, "Don't you know CPR? You're supposed to do
you take the
Is
class?
this how you're supposed to act?" You're
Poor
the
kid.
adult here, Hank. I
So
thought that
Alan
was
goes, runs,
funny.
and gets, calls 911. And then Margot and Punky come out, and it's all business with them. They go right to it.
They're like,
saving
"We've done
Cherry's
this
life.
before."
Yep. And they're so good, and they do like the whole bit. And then Cherry starts breathing again, and they
Yay.
save the day. Cherry's lifesavers. And then the part that got me was that like Alan, like it feels like it's all like he like wasn't able to save her because like he wasn't paying any class, and it seemed like it really got in his head, and that really made me kind of
Totally.
sad because
Yeah.
like, okay, you didn't know like your friend was gonna hide in a refrigerator and like lose consciousness. But yeah, always like I said, really stuck with me and most kids in the 80s about refrigerators, and you should not use those as hiding spaces. Very scary.
All right.
Not a lot of air in there.
No, and there's like, wasn't there like, didn't they like go in the fridge in Stranger Things or like it the remake or something?
Oh.
There's like a fridge in the woods. There's an episode of The Leftovers where there's like they go in the fridge as like a dare, and then there's like how long can you stay in the fridge? And she's like, okay, let me out now. And she's like kind of starting to feel the air get like thin. And they like open the door and the handle breaks off, and you're like, fuck. And so, yeah, there's all sorts of refrigerator lore. And I'm always like, is it because everybody was scarred by this same episode
Yes.
of Punky Brewster?
Yeah, I just think it's something like
It's
you
gotta
didn't
be.
think about.
But
But
yes.
this episode like was written because they had kids write in about episode
Yes.
ideas.
Yeah,
and
I was
some
gonna say
kid
that.
wrote about this.
Well,
Like,
'cause-
it was about this.
It had to have been one of those things that, like, you know, like the little baby found in the well, or like the
Yeah.
kid that got, you know, that was probably like on the like nightly news or something. One of those like news programs that's like super
Right.
sensationalizes like, you know,
Well,
news events. So
Well, I always thought, being like obviously a little too young to be watching this and watched it later, looking back, being like, okay, well, yeah, was there this epidemic of kids like going into refrigerators
that's why
and
you
dying?
have to take the door off now,
yeah,
probably,
yeah, exactly,
because that kept happening.
Yeah, totally fucked up,
Traumatic.
But
yeah, there's all kinds
I
of
said.
different. I was kind of reading through some of the other episodes, and one of them was like, Punky's convinced that Henry is going to be killed by this serial killer that targets old people. And I was like, what? Gotta watch that one. Like, there's some really
Right.
like serious ones.
There's one about like someone's like dad is a drinker or something. Did you see that one? Like an alcoholism
No.
one.
My
There's
God.
one about a face on the milk carton. They like think some girl is like abducted.
God.
And her face
Yeah,
is,
we gotta
like, on a
watch
milk
this. We're
carton.
gonna watch it. This is our
It
show now.
made me want to keep watching. I know.
Well, we
I was
got
like,
to.
Jeez.
I need to know.
I started watching a little bit on season 4 about Punky needing a bra.
Ooh, that
but,
sounds
like, I
kind of
ran out of time.
familiar.
Yeah.
Maybe I have seen that one.
Yeah. So the 4th season, you know, that's what like the time that they end up getting canceled because it just kind of like lost some popularity. And, you know, Punky isn't as cute, you know, by the end. She's getting a little older. Obviously, she needs a bra. So it just like ran its course. But good show. Yeah, I'd say like good solid writing as like a sitcom should be. Some great jokes, one-liners, you know, just really good characters. Everything that makes like a show a good show. Okay, so just some fun facts. The real Punky Brewster was Brandon Tartikoff, who was like the guy head of NBC.
I'm familiar.
From Saved by the Bell.
Hi. I'm Brandon Tartikoff. This season, we're saying no to drugs.
Sorry, I can hear my baby crying.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Wrap it up. Anyway, he went to school with a Punky Brewster, and the woman who was the real Punky Brewster got royalty checks for using her name and ended up being a guest on one episode or something. So I'd love to find that episode. What else do I have? So just a couple other guests that we saw. So I don't know if you recognize the judge from the pilot. He was the judge from A Few Good Men. I knew he was a judge in some other movie, and it was like driving me nuts. Huh? You've never seen A Few Good Men?
No, I have not.
What? Oh.
Well, you said it like we covered it
You
on the podcast.
can't handle
I was
the truth.
confused. I was like, my cousin
The
did.
truth.
Yeah. I know the line. Okay, interesting. Go on.
Eugene from Greece.
Okay, yes, I wrote that down. Eugene from Greece? Exclamation point.
I know. So crazy.
Is the hopeless super?
Yeah.
So that's funny.
Mona from Mad Men and Robin Lively. And then there's that guy. Who was the guy?
Oh my God. He's in
from-
everything.
Yeah,
He's
I
in
know.
Arachnophobia. He's
Thank
in
you.
Inner Space. He's
Yes.
in just like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Like, I
Yep.
think he's in all the things.
Yeah, he's like the
And all the
everywhere
TV
guy.
shows, too.
Yeah, everywhere guy. So I'm sure like the more you'd watch, the more you'd be like, oh my God, it's that guy. Oh my God, it's that woman. Hey, it's that guy. Was that a segment we had on this show at
Hey,
one
it's
point?
that guy. Yeah.
Hey, it's that guy.
Mhm.
Hey, who's that? Or something like that.
Yeah.
I forget what we called it.
Yeah, we're going to bring back the segments.
I know the segments. And yeah, I was just going to bring up like one more thing. Oh no.
I like that
Oh,
Henry
no.
had his own photography studio, which was like also such a big thing in the 80s of just like
Yes.
the brick and mortar like photography studio or
I know.
like the studio at the Sears or whatever. And like it's just so funny now that it's like, wow, we just all take pictures on our phones. It's wild.
It is wild.
Kind of sad.
Okay, so I don't know if you saw, but they did a reboot of this called
No.
Punky Brewster in 2021. Soleil Moonfry comes back. She has 3 kids. She's basically living, I think, in Henry's apartment. She's divorced.
Oh my God.
Her dog is named Brandy. And she's divorced from Freddie Prinze Jr.
Is he Alan? Who is he supposed to be? God.
No, Diego or something like that.
What?
Cherry's in it. She's still her best friend. She works at the home where Punky like broke out of.
Oh my God.
And in the first episode, Punky is wearing like overalls. She has like a bandana
Did you
as
watch
a belt.
this?
Yes, I watched like half of the first episode. She has different colored shoes on, but her daughter's like, Mom, like, why do you have 2 different colored shoes on? She's like, oh, I haven't done that in a while. Still works. And like, it was really cute. I mean, it was like a lot of fun little throwbacks.
Wow.
I think her sons, she like adopted. Her daughter is like her daughter, but maybe she adopted the sons because she obviously came from like an adopted thing. She like has a picture of Henry on the wall and she talks to him and and she's a photographer. Wait, did I say that right?
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it's like, it was like cute. It got canceled. It was only like 1 season, but I was like totally floored. I was like, oh my God, a reboot? Like what? And it was cute. She like, I was worried like, oh, is her acting chops up to the task? But yeah, she was really cute. And she really looks like, it's really trippy to watch something like that back to back, like watching someone as like a 7-year-old and then in the next beat watch them as like a 40-year-old and they like basically have the same face, but they are like 35 years older, and it's like, woo, threw me for a loop, man. Spooky, exactly. Spooky. But yeah, that was really, really fun. All these episodes are on Peacock if you have Peacock, the streaming network. And totally recommend like just doing a deep dive into Punky Brewster again. It'll warm your heart.
We're going to do it. You should do it too. Okay. Well, we're so glad we're back. We missed ya. Hope you missed us. Come find us on Instagram at Large Marge Sent Us. Thank you, as always, for listening. Bye.
Bye.